Act, which amended and supplemented Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of the State of New Jersey passed 1975. Notice of this meeting was given by adopting the annual schedule of location, time, and date, sending copies to the Home News Unit, posting the Borough Hall, filing copies to the Borough Clerk within 7 days of the annual organization meeting of this body. I now ask you to rise for an invocation given by Council President Muldoon, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Katie, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Wallace?
Here.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Here.
Councilwoman Insero? Here. Councilman Grazel?
Here.
Councilman Camerano?
Here.
Council President Muldoon?
Here. Mayor, in light of the number of proclamations we have tonight, and I think most of the people are here hopefully for those, I would like to move agenda item 4 to be next on our agenda.
Great.
Great, thanks. All right,
Okay.
so Councilman Wallace, I think you'd like to present the proclamation to the winners of the Elks Softball Batter-Up State Tournament.
Yes, Council President.
Will those award winners please come forward?
And I think we have some members of the Elks here also, if you would.
Please,
Please come on
members
up.
of the Elks, come up.
And anyone who wants to take pictures, you're welcome to stand up and go wherever you'd like in order to take the picture.
Elks, please come up here. All right, this program is just another one of many things our local Elks does for the town and for people. A lot of people don't know all the things they do because they do it behind the scenes. But just them name a couple that I'm aware of. They did this batter-up thing. They do other things for kids. They send different kids to camps. We had a fireman who was very seriously injured, not on duty, but on an off-duty accident, and he needed a prosthesis. They ran several fundraisers to get money for it, and a couple in conjunction with the fire department. They ran a golf tournament, all different things so we could raise the thousands of dollars to get him a prosthetic arm that was in the 5-digit thousands, and that's just some of the things they do. I don't know all the gentlemen, but I do know Jeff over here. Jeff's been a lifelong Metuchen resident. He's a retired fireman, retired fire chief. He's been around a long time. Hi, kids. Glad to see you tonight. I heard about this, and we just thought you deserved a little something. You want your mother and fathers to come up and stand with you also? No? We're good to go. All right, I'm going to read a little something. There'll be one for each one of you. Then you can bring your parents up for a picture taken anyway. Oh, still a no shake. Those people I put glasses on to read, I have to take mine off. Whereas Sarah Prihatka, Skylar Prihatka, and Michael Lapsinski entered into the New Jersey Elks Softball Batter-Up Hit State Tournament in August of 2013. And whereas New Jersey Elks Softball Batter-Up Hitting State Tournament is a competition to test young hitters' abilities in different age groups. Whereas Sarah Prihatka, Skylar Prihatka, and Michael Lapsinski began this quest for the state championship title by first entering the competition at the local level through the Metuchen Elks, where they finished first. And whereas Sarah Prihatka, Skylar Prihatka, and Michael Lapsinski then advanced to the Middlesex County Elks competition, where they also finished first. They then went to the Central Jersey Finals, and they finished first again. And then they went to the state competition, and they won again in their age brackets. I don't have their age brackets down here, but I think Michael was 12 to 13, you were 10 to 11, and you were 5 to 6, or 6 to 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Now there be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Metuchen hereby recognizes the outstanding ability and talent of Sarah Prihotka, Skylar Prihotka, and Michael Abazinski. Be it further resolved that the mayor and council, on behalf of the residents of Metuchen, do hereby extend their accolades and congratulations to Sarah Prihotka, Skylar Prihotka, and Michael Abazinski on a job well done and being named the New Jersey Elks softball batter-up hitting champion, state champion. Okay? Thank you. Don't run away. I only read one, but I have 3 of them, and they're for each one of them. So if they do want to have their pictures taken with their parents, this is the time. Don't be bashful. Here you are, Michael. Thank you. You don't have to try to hide, Jason. It's okay. All right, this is for Skylar. Here, Skylar.
Thank you,
Sarah,
thank you.
this is yours. Sarah? Okay, try to take the picture so you get everybody. Oh, this way, guys. You want any pictures, Michael? Oh, you're our picture guy, huh? Okay. Congratulations to,
Any of the Elks would like to say a few words? Any of the Elks would like to say a few? You okay?
You have a big agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Not yet, not yet. Would the girls' basketball team please come forth? And coaches? Why don't you come on this side? You know, it's always a pleasure to have you ladies here. You know I sit at the mayor's box and have enjoyed the entire season. I think there's a couple other people here, though, that we should recognize. One is our scorekeeper, Joe Yoshak. He's been around longer than me, believe it or not. And the other is our Twizzler man, John Gazda. And they should both be applauded for the work that they do. John knows I always get emotional. Said I only cry at weddings and championship girls basketball games. Which, ironically, I had a meeting that night and had to leave at halftime, and Joe was texting me every couple minutes what the results were going to be. Thank you, Joe. Whereas the Metuchen girls basketball team completed their season with an exceptional 19-9 record under the direction of head coach Patricia Mayo, assistant coaches Matt Wexler and Guy Jensen. And whereas the Lady Bulldogs achieved recognition by winning the 2014 Central Jersey Group 1 Championship, and whereas the Lady Bulldogs faced stiff competition but defeated Keyport High School, then Middlesex High School, then defeated Shore Regional in overtime in the semifinals on March 7th, and whereas the Lady Bulldogs defeated South River in overtime, overcoming a 7-point deficit with 1 minute and 39 seconds remaining in the game on March 11th, to be crowned the Group 1 Central Jersey champions with the final score of 45-43. Whereas the Metuchen girls basketball team had also individual accomplishments attained by senior Cassie Smith. And whereas the girls basketball team consists of 8 freshmen, I hope I get the names right. Cassie Ramsey, Molly O'Connor, Tracy Michalski, Mia Gordon Gonzalez, Victoria Tranchensky, Did I get that right? How do you say it? Chohansky. Valentina Chohansky. Alina Benderly, Brooke Bandola, 4 sophomores, Alexa Kraft Zalatel, Catherine Chura, Emily Buchanan, Kelly Beck, 3 juniors, Samantha Stefkas, Kelly Eustace, Leanne Cifardelli, and 3 seniors, Kira Taylor, Cassandra Smith, and Caitlin Flaherty. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the council, on behalf of the residents of Metuchen, wish to acknowledge and commend the Lady Bulldogs for their time, dedication, and excellence in all that they have achieved. Congratulations, girls. I might add that I have asked the borough administrator to order new signs so that the 2012 signs will be changed to the 2014 championship signs as you enter town.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Mayor Valhalla, thank you very much for having the girls' basketball team come tonight. It's indeed an honor to be here, to be recognized by you and by the citizens of Metuchen. I'd like to thank Joe Yoshak. Not only is he our scorekeeper, but he's the fire truck driver. So girls, he's responsible for our escort into town, and I thank the borough for allowing that to happen. Mr. Gazda, again, the Twizzlers, I'd have at least 3 after every game. It was impressive that you remembered us all the time. Thank you. And, you know, I got on this guy teasingly. You have the best athletic director in the state in John Cathcart. So, John, I just want to say I do appreciate everything you do for us, and it's heartfelt. Thank you. So thank you very much. As with Mr. Paragallo, our principal, I thank you for bringing me into Metuchen. Tremendous, and I appreciate it. Our parents, your support is amazing, and those of you who are friends of the family, you just come to our games, it means so much. And I don't think the girls here will realize just how much it means till about maybe 20 years from now, and when they have children and when they're coaching, and they'll understand what I mean right now. To Sarah, Skylar, and Mike, congratulations. And Mayor, I hope that as a basketball coach to another coach, we didn't have you second guess us too often.
Very little.
That's good to hear. And that's the sole responsibility of my right-hand man, Guy Jensen. He made me one promise, and that promise was to win a state championship. And after our loss to East Brunswick, at East Brunswick in the GMCs, he said, Coach, we've got this. And he made sure we did. So, Coach, thank you very much.
And the 2 young Perhotka girls, their mom was on my team. So recruit. Don't let them leave without a contract if they're playing at Metuchen in the future.
All right,
Okay?
it's a deal.
All righty?
All right.
Again, ladies, you
Thank
deserve
you.
a round of applause, and thank you. Now, if Cassie would just stay and the rest of you could leave for a minute. And then would, John, would you come up, please, and Bruce? And Artie? Don't touch him back there. Okay, whereas Cassie Smith, Metuchen High School senior Lady Bulldog, had a very noteworthy basketball career. And whereas Cassie Smith's hard work, dedication, and love for the sport helped lead Metuchen Lady Bulldogs to a spectacular 19-9 record in their 2014 season. And whereas Cassie Smith was named twice to the All-Blue Division, 2013 and 2014, twice to the All-GMC Division, 2013 and 2014, whereas Cassie Smith also received the honor of being selected to the first team All-State Group 1 2014 team, and the third team All-State Group 1 2013, the third team All-State All Groups 2014, and the NJSIA South All-Star Team 2014. Whereas Kathy Smith also was awarded the title of the Star Ledger and Home News Middlesex County Player of the Year for 2014. Whereas Cassie Smith also holds the esteemed records of the most points scored by a woman in a single season, the most points scored by a woman in a single game, 47, and the most points scored by a Metuchen basketball player at Metuchen High of 2,062. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Council, on behalf of the residents, wish to acknowledge and commend Cassie Smith for her time, dedication, and excellence in all that she has achieved. Congratulations. We know you've got a basketball with 2,000 on it, which we hope will be displayed, but I wanted to have Sergeant Flaherty here because one of my first years in Metuchen, he set the record. And now this will be hanging in the Metuchen gym. Let's get it the right way, guys. And it lists all of the scorers, and it lists you as the scorer with the most points, and it'll be hanging in our gym. Congratulations.
Cassie, I think you should just take that and wrap yourself up in it for a nice picture. Go for it, Cass. Come on.
Mom or Dad, you want to come up for pictures?
They have it all on video. John.
Yeah, I want to get a picture.
Wrap yourself. Go ahead, Cass. Well, at least hold it, Cass.
You would count.
Oh,
I said she should wrap herself in like a blanket. What do you think?
what? Yeah.
Hard to get close to it. They're the two greatest, I'll tell you.
That they are.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad, come on up.
All right. Thank you.
These guys.
Dad can hold it a little higher.
Yeah.
Come on, Dad's gonna go.
Foul shots. Thank you. That's okay. You're going to be against you.
Anybody else want to say anything? Any other players, coaches? Thank you. Thank you. Girls, thank you for a great season.
Actually, it'd be nice to see you back in a police uniform after college.
Thank you. Well, most people don't know, but this goes all the way back to my high school days in Bloomfield. When we would leave, the coach would say, the athletic director, bring home the bacon. So thank you, girls. Thank you for bringing it home.
Mary, do you want to take a couple minutes? Or
Yeah,
you're all welcome to stay, but
yeah, but you don't have to stay if you don't want to. So we're going to take a 2-minute recess. We have a motion to open the agenda session.
I move we open the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any matters for the agenda session?
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple. I'd like to remove Resolution 2014-71 from the consent agenda just for discussion,
That's the transfer of the
yes.
license?
right?
Okay.
And the other thing is just to, I guess, announce that we are going to have the special council meeting. It's been scheduled for Monday, April 14th at 8:30 a.m. And we're having this meeting solely to address a request for a place-to-place transfer of a liquor license. And we're doing it because of a timing issue to help accommodate this request. So it will be a special meeting on the 14th for that purpose only.
That's why you can't go.
Right, there will only be one thing on
One
the agenda.
item, right? Okay.
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes.
I'd like to thank you and the council president for scheduling that meeting. You know, we very frequently find ourselves hearing from folks about problems they have, and liquor license issues are so complicated and drawn out that this individual found himself in a situation where he's moving his store and needed to get the process done, but because of the state law, had to advertise it. We had to wait a certain number of days, so we couldn't make tonight's meeting. He grabbed me on the street a couple of weeks ago, talking to me. He's working really hard, and I really want to just express my appreciation to the two of you, as well as to the council, for accommodating him, which will now allow him to move out and move across the street before his lease expires. So I think it's a nice thing to do. I know we've done it in the past for similar situations, but liquor license issues in particular, I mean, he's literally moving from one place probably 50, 75, probably 100 feet across the street, and we actually have to go through the process of a license transfer. So the state law probably should be updated, but thank you for accommodating him so that he can continue to operate.
No problem. I think it's a great thing that we're doing to make the transition smooth, the move smooth for him, so that he doesn't lose days of business and he could, move forward. Any other item for the agenda?
I have one more thing just to...
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. It's really just not about the agenda, but just an observation. On Saturday, Saturday I think was one of those days when Metuchen was really at its best. I happened to be downtown Saturday morning, and it was amazing to see what was going on. We had the garden club was busy planting the spring flowers and all of the pots that they maintain in downtown that would really beautifies our downtown. There was a group of citizens, just citizen volunteers, that were doing a litter cleanup around town. The Metuchen Little League Parade was kicking off, and everyone knows what a big event that is in Metuchen, and a great tradition. And then Saturday night was an evening of fantastic music at the Old Franklin Schoolhouse. So a lot of this stuff goes on every day and every week. So it was kind of amazing for me, like you step back and realize all of the great work that's done by volunteers. Everything I just described, those are all volunteers. So either individual volunteers or groups like the Garden Club, the Chamber of Commerce, the Elks that we heard about tonight, the Borough Improvement League, and all the Little League coaches and all of their officers and parents that give so much of their time and talents to make Metuchen the truly special place that it is. So I just wanted, I'm sure I speak on behalf of the mayor and all the council members, to just stop and recognize and thank all the volunteers and all the civic organizations for making this an amazing place. So thank you all.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other?
I have a couple items.
Okay.
Your Honor, in relation to the group that was cleaning up downtown, as well as a email I got from one of the teachers at Edgar School, who we frequently hear from on issues that students identify as a problem, the issue of cigarette butts on the sidewalks and the streets downtown came up, and it's an issue that I really think we need to address. It's absolutely disgusting, and it seems to have gotten worse. How people can feel throwing a cigarette butt on the ground is not littering is just beyond me. If you threw a piece of paper or a can or a plastic bottle, they'd probably stop you and say, what are you doing? At the same time, some people are flicking their cigarette butts. The number is just off the charts. The students at Edgar School are wondering if we could pass some sort of requirement that requires store owners or business people who have outdoor dining to have some sort of receptacle there. And I think we have to, don't know if that's the answer or not, but I think it's an issue we really need to address, because anybody who walks downtown, it's just horrible. It's absolutely horrible. This issue came up a couple of years ago during renewal of liquor licenses, and hats off to Chris Flynn at Haley's, who kind of looked at me and said, never thought of it. And ever since then, Chris is out there and told me it's actually better for his business to be out there cleaning the sidewalk as much as he can. I think we need to teach every merchant downtown that their sidewalk is really an extension of their business. It's kind of like their greeting card. And a lot of times it's employees who go out for a quick smoke break, but it's a real problem, and it's absolutely incredible, the volume of cigarette butts. If you walk downtown, you'll take note. And Tyreen Reuter's here. And how many cigarette butts did you find on Saturday?
It was disproportionate to the litter completely. It was basically, the streets are fairly clean. There might be a can or a wrapper, but thousands and thousands of them. And I was going to say something about the litter thing.
Maybe what we should do is get a recommendation from the Board of Health if we need to pass an ordinance about having outdoor dining areas have a receptacle at each place, or, I'm not sure if...
Yeah, I think we need to figure that out, because,
Okay.
and it's not just the outdoor dining establishments, there's others, but I think we need to address the issue on a broader scale, and there clearly needs to be more receptacles downtown for discarding cigarettes. The problem is how do you get people to use them once you have them? But it's absolutely incredible to me how many there are. And I think the kids, for a group of middle school children and a trash litter cleanup crew to realize this the very same week shows you that there's clearly an identifiable problem. So I'd like to look at how we can address that issue. I don't know if there's enforcement issues. I hate to do it, but if things aren't going to change, maybe we need to. It's really a poor reflection on the downtown. It really is. And I've had others comment on it over time. So,
I've been in contact with an organization called New Jersey GASP about this issue, because it is something that the Board of Health is very interested in, mainly on the issue of public parks and municipal property. The restaurant idea is something I can call this organization back about and see if they have any model ordinances related to that aspect of it as well. I have contacts there. I'd be happy to do that.
Might they also have something about, like employees? Because I don't think we should single out restaurants with outdoor dining, because there could be a business that has, I don't know, 10, 15, 20
Right.
employees. If a bunch of them are outside smoking, they might be the ones dropping the butts, so a receptacle might be needed there. So I think we need to look at it.
From a
Yeah, I
downtown
agree.
business perspective.
Yeah, it's everybody. It's
Right,
the entire downtown.
and also the train station.
I think the bus stations, too, are
Yes.
another
yeah.
issue. Where you have people waiting for a bus, and then they light up, and then they just throw it before they get on the bus,
Right.
So I'd like the Board of Health to come back with recommendations. I'm scheduled to meet with Mr. Smith's class. Hopefully, we could have a discussion with the students and see what their recommendations. I was going to report on something else that we've gotten accomplished with them in the last couple of weeks, but I'll meet with his class and see what they come up with, too. Sometimes they come up with great
Yeah.
ideas.
Maybe they could have some ideas around education, promoting, like once we take action, they could help us maybe getting the word out, communicating it, or whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are there any other items for the agenda?
Yeah, I have a couple more if I may.
Okay, yes, please.
I know we all got a copy of the budget in our mailboxes last week. I'm curious as to whether or not we have a schedule for introduction and how we're going to proceed with ultimately final adoption.
Well, I didn't want to introduce until the Finance Committee met with the Borough Administrator on it. I'm hoping that we can introduce at our next meeting, which would be the 21st, if we could have a Finance meeting with the Borough Administrator prior to that time. And then I think we'll see what comes out of the Finance Committee as to the way we
Are
proceed.
you anticipating, just as a member of the Finance Committee, that we're going to make changes, or,
Well, you can. I mean, the council can make changes now, too. I just think it's,
I mean, prior to introduction, I was
yeah,
curious.
prior to
as
introduction. But I think it's, it's, the Borough Administrator has done his job and presented it to the council. The Finance Committee should meet with him and see what they say, and then go from there. We'll introduce and then have a discussion about it, and set up a schedule with the council president as to how we're going to proceed.
The one thing I would urge anybody on the council, if they do have issues or whatever, maybe prior to our meeting with the finance, with the administrator, they could let us know what those issues are so we can address them in that committee structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have one other question, and I can do this now or later. With the ordinance on the agenda tonight for ordinance number 2014-3, I really would like an explanation as to why we're doing that and whether or not it's appropriate for us to be doing.
What this ordinance was, the owner of this premise came forth. His property is in two different zones. It's been a long-standing property. It's in both the,
It's two properties that he has in two different zones, correct?
it's one building,
So there's one building in two different zones.
two different zones. And what he would like to do is have it all put into the one zone, which would be the LI zone, because it is a business. And I gather this goes back to the 1960s or so, when the business was put there.
They actually split the building?
Well, the building's one building, but it's,
It's on two separate lots?
council's two separate lots?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know there was a drawing that was submitted.
I can't tell from the drawings we were presented, but it would, I mean, if
To my knowledge, it's one building in two different zones. In an R2 zone and in a L1 zone.
Has this been passed on by any borough official or other organization?
What would happen is if we introduce it, it will then go to the planning board for discussion,
Okay,
and then back to us for final adoption,
okay.
which would not occur because there's not a planning board in April, a meeting in April. The next planning board meeting schedule will be May 15th. So it would not occur till the next meeting after that May 15th.
And when the planning board considers it, is there notice that goes out to the neighborhood?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
And all costs for the notice are being borne by the owner.
does that notice go out when we introduce?
Yes, I mean, the notice goes out after you introduce, it then goes out to the 200-foot zone, and, I mean, all those property owners that you've introduced this ordinance, and then that notice also has the date of the hearing, which would be the second reading here.
So then, that's my question. So the
It-
notice
it's not
goes
for the
out,
planning board.
but that goes to a hearing here,
Yes.
where we're really not going to do anything with it because it's going to the planning board.
No, you would have to adopt this ordinance on second reading. I mean, what you're doing tonight, you would just be introducing it, and then it's published in the newspaper that you've introduced it. A notice goes out to the 200, the list of the 200 feet owners, and the ordinance is also referred to the planning board, which the planning board then reports back to you prior to the second hearing.
Oh, okay.
And the final adoption. And so the notice to all the landowners would be of the date for the final hearing before you, not before the planning.
Does the notice contain a publication of when the planning board hearing is?
No.
Okay.
But they...
No, that
will they
wouldn't be
have an
required.
opportunity to go to the planning? If I'm a resident,
Mhm.
will I have an opportunity to go to the planning board meeting about this, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the planning board's open to the public, and there's, I mean, required, I mean, public participation.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
and anyone, I mean... is
How
it-
are the 200 feet people going to know about the planning board meeting?
It has to be in the letter, doesn't it?
No, it does not. It's not legally required to be in the letter. I mean, you can, I mean, put it in the letter, but, I mean, by putting in the letter, you're then dictating what the planning board does and when they do it. I mean, your referral to the planning board allows the planning board within 35 days to review the proposed ordinance and report back to you on whether it's consistent with, I mean, the proposed ordinance is consistent with the master
See,
plan.
what concerns me is, we have the hearing, and then at the hearing, we get the report back from the planning board, and this may be, maybe nobody's concerned with it, but if there are concerned people, they're going to want to say, well, how come we didn't know about the planning board?
Yep.
I mean, is it feasible to include the notice of the planning board hearing, or is that not
It's-
feasible?
I mean,
Right now, we're scheduling, the planning board would hear it on the 15th, so we could say that.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you could put that in the letter.
Let me clarify
Are
something.
we talking about the 15th of May? Okay.
Yeah, What's happening here is that this property has been passed down from a parent to two children who have owned the property and worked the property for a long time. He's not looking to change and add to the building is already there. All right?
But there is nothing that prohibits him from continuing to operating the way he's been operating.
That's correct.
You know,
But I think what he's looking at is in the future,
and that's my concern.
if he goes to retire and they want to sell it, now you have a piece of a property that is in an R2 and a piece of property that is in an L1.
Okay.
It looks like the building was added on based on the memo, which we should probably correct, because the date on the memo is May 19th, 2011, and then the date on the second page is May 11th, 2014. I don't know if the issue's been floating around for a long time, but we have two different dates on the first and second page. But it looks like they added on, but I don't see where it says it's one building. It looks like they added a warehouse to the other lot in 1965, maybe, 67?
There it is.
Yeah, it's-
1967. So, I mean, I think we just need to know a little bit more about this before we go forward, knowing that
Paste and didn't change.
they're not going to hear it till May 15th. Perhaps we could get a little more information and introduce at the next meeting.
Well, the only concern I'd have about that, Peter, is I think, wouldn't we all want the affected people to have notice of the planning board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean,
Oh.
and I think that's our,
So you're saying introduce on the 21st of April?
is your concern, Councilman, that there wouldn't be enough time to notify them?
Yeah, in other words,
Is it
if
fair?
all we're
Yeah,
doing
I
is...
mean, I'd rather have the people know, because there are residential homes right across the street from this. And, you know, well, the current use is not really impacting them. There's also a driveway and, I believe, a garage door on their street, even though the building fronts forest, that could easily be used by a new business without any restrictions. And my concern is, in the past, we've had folks ask us for zoning changes, and this one's a little unique, but we've always kicked it to the appropriate board or, you know, to deal with, because it gives more public input and more public involvement. And, you know, on this one, I just don't understand why we wouldn't let it, if somebody wants to change the use of that property down the road, I mean, Council, maybe you can tell me, wouldn't they then have the option of going to the zoning board?
Yes, I mean, if
And at that
it
time-
remains the way it is right now,
So if
they would need a variance,
they
which
would
they
have to
would
go,
get from the zone.
which would provide a public forum, knowing what the plans are for the building. My concern is, by rezoning this, we are basically giving away our recourse down the road if somebody comes in. We make this whole thing light industrial, and, you know, next thing we know, we could have a two-shift industrial operation going on right across from people's homes. Whereas if they had to go to the planning board, all those facts would come out at the hearing.
Well, they do have to go to the planning board.
The zoning board, I'm sorry. If we didn't do this and they wanted to do that down the road, they would have to go to the zoning board for a variance to have that operation there.
See, the only problem is, as the mayor points out, it kind of freezes the property owner into a situation where he's not going to be able to sell the property.
Well, he could with a contingency like many properties
Okay.
that have to go to the zoning board.
Well,
I mean, that's a common, very frequently, a lot of projects have a contingency to pending zoning board approval.
but I,
That goes on every day.
I understand, we're talking about a building that's been there since the 60s,
I understand
and a
that.
business that's been there since the 60s.
But we're not necessarily talking about that business. That's my problem. We're talking about what could potentially be there 10 years from now. And what control are we giving up now to address that? So, you know, to me, they always have the recourse of the zoning board in getting a variance to change it. And in that environment, you have a lot more of the facts as to what's going on, what's coming into this building, and the residents would be noticed, and they would have the direct input. We've had requests for to change zoning in the past, not with the unique situations, and our response has consistently been, go to the zoning board, let them address it, because that way everybody gets input. I don't understand why we're not doing that here.
Well, what's the council's pleasure? The owner came to me and has spoken to the planner and the attorney from, well, who was both the zoning board and planning board, and didn't see that much of an issue in redrawing the line so that it would be all in the L1.
And the applicant spent money and time and professional fees
And
there?
he's going to notify anybody in the area at his cost. Would you prefer that we have, introduce it, and then have something in the letter that says that it's going before the planning board on the 15th?
At the very least, I think we have to get all the facts as to exactly whether it's one building, two buildings, and figure out exactly what's going on before we introduce.
Okay.
Well,
I know that creates timing issues, but I'd rather get it right.
yeah, but just procedurally, Peter, if we introduce, it goes to the planning board with notice,
Right.
and then the planning board reports back to us on notice, then the public is notified, and we can deal with it accordingly. We don't have to pass the ordinance.
But that was one of my questions. Do we have to adopt the recommendation of the planning board?
No, you're not required.
And so I understand public
I mean-
notice would take place when? Twice?
Well, what I thought we were proceeding toward is that if we introduce the ordinance, that the notice that goes out would include the date of the planning board and the date of the hearing before us. So that would give any affected residents two opportunities for input. And then, when the planning board reports back to us, then we can air these issues out at that time.
I think that's a smart, prudent way to go.
Your Honor, what defines light industrial in our ordinance? Like, what falls under that category of
That I don't know.
operations?
That I would have to turn over to the attorney or...
Because I think it's pretty broad, and I think the hours of operation are, I'm telling you, you could have an operation of manufacturing, light manufacturing probably, running 12, 14 hours a day, 11 o'clock at night. I don't know if they can go all night. Can they work 3 shifts? I don't know if we have an ordinance prohibiting it. So there's a lot of unknowns here. And, you know, if going ahead and introducing and adopting this ordinance really waives a lot of our potential remedies or checks on the system down the road. I just don't understand. If somebody wants to come in there, they could go for a zoning variance, just like anyone else at the time. And then we know what's coming in. We know what the operation is. I mean, I think we're really taking a risk here, given the fact there are residential properties right across the street. So,
Wouldn't this procedure be a fact-gathering exercise? You'd get input from the owner, you'd get input
You
from the
could,
public.
but-
And I share your concerns, and it seems to me that if those concerns bear out, and I think you're making good points, we can defeat the ordinance.
But we won't know, that's the problem, Councilman, we won't know what, the operation that's there now has existed peacefully with their neighbors for many years. So, but we won't know if, as we discussed tonight, 10 years from now, that property is sold to somebody else, what's coming in, and if we've rezoned that light industrial, we don't really have any recourse at that time to stop it. I mean, to me, we should do the fact-finding, but we should do it up front before we introduce the ordinance. I don't understand
Wouldn't
it.
it require a site plan change if it's a change of business? Even though it would be in the LI, it would still have to come before a board for changing?
I don't know. I mean, I'll defer to the attorneys on that.
Yes, I mean, your change of use would still require a site plan approval.
But that wouldn't
from the planning board.
require
That
public
wouldn't
hearing.
It would not require,
A public hearing.
I mean, I'm not positive of the public hearing aspect, but I know it would not require, any variance relief.
See, I don't know what the mechanism is, Peter, to get the facts if we don't introduce the ordinance.
Well, I mean, I just don't.
Because, Pete, I think one issue you're bringing up is the future change of use. I don't think that's a fact-finding thing. I think your point is, if it's rezoned and the property is sold in the future and a different L1 business comes in there, those neighbors might be negatively impacted, right?
Correct.
I mean, our answer may be exactly what you're saying. No. We defeat the ordinance.
But we have consistently frowned upon zoning changes before the council in the past.
Okay.
At least I can think of 2 other cases where they're not as unique, as I said, with the property type, but we've been approached to say, can we rezone, can you guys help us rezone this so we don't have to go for a variance? And our response has been, at least since I've been on the council twice, no.
But I believe those were with developable land, not land that's already developed.
Well, nothing's to say it can't be redeveloped.
Okay.
I mean, we don't know what the future holds, and that's kind of my concern. I wish I had a crystal ball and we could do it, but I don't.
Well, what's the council's pleasure? You want to defeat it and try to get more information? Do you want to, I agree with Councilman Grazel in saying introduce
It's not a
it.
question of defeating, it's a question whether or not we remove it from the agenda or not. It's not a question of, and, we may be able to get the facts in the next 2 weeks before the next meeting that could help us make that decision on introduction.
So in other words, you would prefer that we table it, gather the facts, and address it again?
I would.
Okay.
I think Thursday is the first time when I picked it, or Friday, when did we get it? Thursday. When I looked at my packet, and candidly, I can't make heads or tails of the drawings
The
that we
drawing is
have.
very-
The copies are really unclear, and they have black blotches all over them. Frankly, I didn't know Bell Avenue existed. Am I reading that correctly?
Unless something's blocked out there.
I'm not sure.
Bell Avenue exists.
Yeah.
Starts at
Okay,
Van
so then-
Buren. It starts at Van Buren and used to go all the way down to Liberty Street.
Is that where it turns?
No, it stops right there at Forest Street now,
So it's about a 50-foot.
So then, why don't we do
100
this?
yards long.
Let's
20 yards?
let's table this, get more information, and look to introduce on the 21st.
All right, but are we clear on the information that we're looking for? So,
And who's it coming?
I'm not right now.
Right,
Well, I think we want to know what light industrial is,
so define,
and we'd like to know what impact it has if we pass this ordinance on a sale of a business that's different in nature or character. Does that capture it, Peter?
Yeah, that does, and I appreciate that.
And I'd also like to know what control we have over businesses in a light industrial zone, since I'm completely unfamiliar with that, if they go up against a residential neighborhood.
And I guess just a clarification on the notification issues before us.
Okay.
Because I think we all want greater public input on it. So,
Okay,
so would we look to Bill to maybe work with Chris and other, I mean, how do we how do we get this information, I guess is,
I'm going to have ask Chris and the planner to get the information
okay.
as much as possible. I know we have buffering ordinances that we've passed in the past for where residential and the light industrial meet. As to all of the significance or parts of it, I think you're going to have the zoning officer interpret that. But we are talking about an existing business. We're not talking about, and we've done that with the landscape groups and some of the others where we passed buffering ordinances between the residential and the business itself.
Yeah, I think Peter makes a good point. I think I'd like to go over and look at the property.
Yeah, because, I mean, in thinking about this before, and I know they've been a great, neighbor and business, and there's been no issues there, but when you stop and think about future ramifications, I hadn't really considered that until tonight, so I think that's worth.
And just so everyone knows, Section 11083 of the code is the L1 Light Industrial District.
Okay.
I'll spare you, I mean, unless you want, I could read, what it is.
You just want to make us do work later.
I'll forward it to everyone.
Okay.
So 110-83.
Okay, so then we will be pulling
So we'll,
2014-3. Is that correct?
yes.
It's just like on the subject of selling those two borough pieces of property in the neighborhood off of 27 came up, and we all went over there, look at it with our own eyes. I feel like I need to do that myself and go over there.
Okay.
I mean, I know the building, but I need to look at the neighborhood.
We'll know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's unique, it really is.
Okay.
Okay. Any other items for the agenda? Anyone else?
I move that we close the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're open at that part of the meeting. We're open to the public for any questions or comments on any item. If you have any questions or comments, please step forward to the mic.
Hello, Tyreen Reuter, 16 Durham Avenue, and just wanted to touch on what Councilman Camerano mentioned about the cigarette butts. So, and also wanted to make it clear, the litter brigade isn't about going out and finding, problem spots to highlight. It's a merry band of happy people that are kind of picking up orphan litter that blows around. It's not like we're out spying on people. But we do, after looking at the ground for 3 hours, pick up on a few things. So, and overall I would say that people in Metuchen are pretty responsible about littering. Very few cans and wrappers and stuff like that. It's really, kind of, it blew down the street type of thing. But the cigarette butts was really shocking now that all the snow has melted. So I think that there's an element of the fact that stuff was stuck for a while. But, in light of some of the things that came up, like the recent fire at the school in Edison, cigarette butts can be dangerous. And in the course of picking up the other day, there were some that were still lit that were then trying to put out. And, it's an issue when you have pets, when you have children, that they're on the street. And in digging around a little bit more about it, because it seemed to me that we have such responsible people overall, that it's got to be some kind of mindset thing, that they're not really thinking perhaps that this is littering. So maybe it's a change of what you think. I asked my mother, who years ago smoked, and it was kind of like, oh, well, I thought they were kind of biodegradable. She doesn't smoke anymore. But I think, I think that there's this sense that it's really not litter. So I looked into it a little bit more and found out the percentage is something like 38% of litter is cigarette waste, which is huge, and that the toxins in the filters seep into the waterways. And when you see them all gathered around the drains and stuff, really quite gruesome. So one of the things that Keep America Beautiful has is a cigarette litter program type thing. So they have some best practices and stuff. And it was interesting reading about transition points. And so kind of like mapping around town where the transition points for people would have to put them out. So like you were saying, it's not always necessarily restaurants. It could be is they're about to get on the train, or maybe they have to go back into the office, or they're getting on the bus. And so they have a bunch of materials on their website about places to put those type of things and the recommended dispensers. So I will email that around to all the council so they can take a look at it. And it does seem like the costs for these disposal containers isn't really that high. And one of the recommendations is to pair them where you have the recycling and the trash already, so that people kind of like gravitate towards that when they have something, that and the transition points. So anyway, just wanted to say that, but thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Mrs. Reuter, I agree with you. I think since we put those other containers in, we've seen an improvement somewhat of the trash and debris on Main Street. So maybe by putting these containers for cigarettes to dispose of it would be a help.
I mean, really, overall, the litter on the street, I mean, I would not say it was awful. You know, we had a few bags full, but if it was cigarette butts and we had a bag full.
Well, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case a few years ago. Anyone else from the public? Please just come forward, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Jacob Schulman, 171 Durham Ave. And I just want to address the cigarette smoking issue just from some research that came up during my time at Rutgers.
Could you just speak into the mic? I'm having trouble.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
So just a very quick point. So for any of you who've been to Disney World or Disneyland in Florida, one of the things that they noticed while watching all their people come into the park is that most people are only willing to walk 25 to 30 feet while holding their trash or cigarette butts or anything. So on top of making sure people don't do it, the town can also encourage the fact that this data has been out there and that people are willing to usually walk 25 to 30 feet. So encourage them more to throw them out and also make sure that they know what they're doing is wrong. So attack it from both ends rather than raising the fine or putting up signs or anything like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, Sharon Goldman, 184 Highland Avenue. Thank you to the mayor and the council for this forum. I just wanted to follow up on coming last month to the council meeting. I wanted to find out if there was any update on the potential consultant or task force that Councilmember Muldoon had spoken about in terms of researching the idea of a business improvement district.
I guess I'll take that because I think I continued to lead those efforts. So yes, since the last meeting, what I've done is spoken with some of my fellow council members about kind of next steps. And then we are identifying some potential, downtown business consultants. Councilman Camerano's identified one, and Councilwoman Insero has a couple. So I think we have some potential consultants to approach. What we're doing now is trying to better articulate what the ask would be, like what the project would be. And at the last meeting, I sort of laid out some thoughts that I had, but I'm trying to also, it's really not all about me. I'm trying to get a little more consensus and direction around what those next steps should be. And I've also been talking, I spoke, I think, to you last Monday night, so speaking to some other residents. So it's, just to be honest, it's a little more daunting than I thought. So I continue to work at it, but I don't think it'll be another 2 weeks when I have it all buttoned up and all that. So it's kind of evolving, and that's probably the best I can say right now. So
I did go to the Development Commission meeting last week, and they said that they had spoken to some landlords, including one that was fairly large in town that definitely seemed in favor of the idea. Just my other quick question was about zoning regulations for stores opening in town. There had been some talk on the Facebook group, the Take Back Metuchen's Main Street, about in the past, I guess there had been some educational seminars sort of educating new sort of mom and pop shops who might not be educated about zoning and the complicated things they have to go through to open, that maybe there could be, sort of increased communication or some more education for potential store owners to find out what the ordinances are that they have to go through to get approved, all that stuff.
I think there was some sessions done in the past, and I think, I think that's a good idea. I'd like to turn to Bill, the Borough Administrator. Maybe he can engage discussions with Chris Cosenza, because, clearly the interest in downtown development is significant. I think people know my interest is significant and my efforts are significant, but I really think we need to have Borough Hall folks start participating. I think there's interest here too, so I think we need some leadership from the administrator to get alignment, and I think the zoning officer can start maybe addressing some of these things. Everything doesn't have to flow through the council, so that's my suggestion on that.
Well, I think in the past, we've changed some of the ordinances, making it easier for people to open, and basically reduce the fees. So filing a zoning permit is, I think, now $50 for a similar use. All right? So if it's a similar use business coming in, there's no change of use. They come in and file a permit with the zoning officer, and if there's anything that is needed, he then goes over what they need. For example, if they're changing the use and they need architectural plans or doing something to the building, then that goes into a different area. But if it's a similar use, like the liquor store moving over to a different store, it's a matter of filing the one permit, and that's it. And I believe the Development Commission had a brochure on that, if I'm not correct.
Yes, we did.
We did do that about 5 years ago, Your Honor, in response to complaints about the very issue you raised. I think the problems come in, and it generally could be a lack of understanding of what's required, is when you start getting into some of the construction code issues.
Maybe it's not zoning, I don't really know that much.
Well, I mean,
but finding the information
some of the
on the
electrical
website and
issues,
stuff.
some of the, depending on what you're using the site for, there may be some fire code issues. If you're putting in any sort of cooking facility or equipping it, it gets a little more complicated. And I think you're right, if it's changing from a similar use to a similar use, we did try to streamline it, and I know we were successful initially, something to look at. But I do think there's a lack of understanding, on the small business owner's part as to what really is required and why it's required. And I think educating them is a good idea if we can do that. I don't know if it's all zoning or if it's a combination of zoning and building because of the code enforcement issues. Because even in the case of the store moving across the street, he may have to do a lot of electrical wiring to accommodate refrigeration and all that. I don't know the answer.
Right, which would require building permits.
Would require some permits that are a little different. So I think it is complicated. I mean, I know they're always open if somebody comes in to talk to them, but maybe the answer is to do outreach to them and figure out a way to do it. But it's always hard when you're a small business owner. You're focused on what you're trying to do, and you're not thinking about all the other. I have a business. I get it. I didn't know what kind of insurance I needed. Mine's an office, so it's a little simpler in the process, but it's a huge learning curve throughout the whole process. And even 7 years into it, I'm still learning things that, and I'm not always happy, I'll be honest with you, with what's required of me. But it is hard, and I think if we can do anything to help them, it's important we do it.
Well, I also think the chamber is offered to do mentoring for people, so the chamber office would be an ideal spot of experienced business people who could help out and answer some of the questions that somebody new starting out would have.
But I think the more that we talk about this and think about it, I think it points out sort of a lack of like a point person, because that's a great suggestion, and we're happy to hear the chamber might be doing that mentoring. But if I'm a new business person coming into town, how do I know to go to the chamber first to find out about their mentoring program? They might come here, and I would think the zoning officer might be the first point of contact, but he's got an area of responsibility. So again, I think it's this overall
But I also
education is
also
needed,
know that
'cause-
he has directed people in different ways.
Yes, Chris,
to go,
Chris is
whether-
wonderful. I think,
Whether they need an architect, or they need building plans, or they just simply need to fill out this form for...
right, but
for
to your point about if the chamber has this mentoring thing, and that might be the first point for a new business person to go to, my question simply is, how does that person know that?
Jay, I spoke to Chris, spoke to Bill, and then I spoke to Chris and told them about the program, and he is willing, if people come in to apply to open up a business, he's willing then to put them in touch with the chamber.
Oh, great, okay.
So we're going to be doing that.
But on the flip side, we should have, and I'm not sure we do or don't, a checklist. If you're going to do A, B, or C, you need this. If you're going to do D, E, F, or, there should be kind of a question, are you planning on doing this? And if so, you'll need this, this, and this. There should be a graduated checklist so that somebody knows exactly what they need. And I don't know, I know Chris is very helpful. I know the folks in the building office are great. But just in a more upfront way, it may save them some time too from having to sit with people. If somebody comes in, it's hard to open, particularly a retail business.
And if you're brand new to it.
If you're new to it and your dream is being carried out, you're not thinking of all these little things. So, as much as we can do to help them, I think we should continue to try. I think we've done things, we've responded to it, but I think it's just an evolving process, and the education's important.
Well, again, thank you for this forum. Thanks to the mayor and the council. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sharon Taylor, 109 Maple Avenue. I have a couple of questions. One is, when a truck gets stuck under the bridge to Main Street, what happens? Do they have to pay a fine? Do they have to pay for the police time and all that sort of stuff? Because I've seen it. I actually stopped one going under the bridge last week.
Yes to all those.
And my daughter saw another one go onto the bridge this week. So that's my first question. And the other question I have is, I walk home from the train station, and I'm getting very active with Sharon's group over here on Facebook and stuff. And one thing I noticed walking back is, and I don't want to bash any landlords or anything, that's not my end game. I just want to find out who is responsible for the sidewalks of Metuchen's Main Street, because I tripped a couple of times going up, and okay, admittedly I'm tired, but I do look where I'm going, and the sidewalks are terrible. They are, they're not flat. When my sidewalk was bad, we were told by our insurance company we had to fix it. So I had my husband and 4 friends, got up, so did the tree thing, whatever, to make it go flat because the tree was pushing it up. And I see it all over Metuchen's Main Street. The sidewalks are awful. And I wonder who is responsible and who is responsible for enforcing that or whatever. But again, I don't want to bash the landlords or anything. I just want to find out.
Mrs. Taylor, the answer to your first questions are yes. The police sometimes bill them, they sometimes summons them, all right, depending on the situation and how much damage is done. Regarding the sidewalks, it is the homeowner's responsibility, just like downtown, it is the owner's responsibility for fixing or taking care of the sidewalks. If there's an area that you know of and you have a number and you give it to us, we'll have our building department or our zoning officer go out and let them know. Usually Chris is very good in that he'll just say, look, you got to fix it, here's a letter saying fix it, and he doesn't summons them unless they just, don't or absolutely refuse to do it. You should also know that we have applied for monies over the last few years to do most of the sidewalks in the same pattern that we have now with the brick and the concrete. We at one time had no standard for what you could do. Now we have a standard in the downtown with the brick breaking up the concrete. For example, in the old bicycle shop, that new building has the standard. Metuchen Savings has those. In front of the Buttery Bakery now has them. What we've seen over the years is that as people replace the sidewalks, they're putting in the same standard. Before that, there wasn't a standard to have. But we have applied for monies, but we have not been fortunate to get the grants from, I think it's Safe Routes to Transit, and we have not been able to get those monies given to us yet. All right? We still are persistent and still keep trying, but, for example, the bridge over the Cons Crossing took us 8 tries to get the money for that. So we're still persistent in trying to do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I just may add, the bridge strike issue, it is a very steep fine for the driver when they hit the bridge, in addition to the cost of police manpower if they have to unload, and it's all billed to the trucking company. And the police will tell you they've actually had drivers walk away saying, I'm just leaving once they're done with the paperwork, because they know they're getting fired because of the expense involved in it. So it is a significant expense. You would think by now somebody would figure it out, but it is very expensive when they do that for them.
And the other thing with the bridge is we have our engineer working with the county engineering office to try to do something similar to up on Parsonage Road. But we have not had any luck in response from the county engineering office, because that's a county road. So we're trying to get some type of system that would work, that would notify the trucks to not go under and hit the bridge. But it's been a long-term problem. Anyone else from the public?
Evening. Sean Massey, 93 Highland Avenue. I heard Safe Routes to Transit, so I figured I'd come up. I'm with Bike Walk Metuchen. I believe most are aware that there was an incident last week, I think, where someone was hit, Woodbridge in Maine, a mother with her baby in a stroller. I believe she's okay. I haven't heard anything further, but there was obviously an accident, and that's obviously directly, by our transit access right there. There are 3 crosswalks: Woodbridge and Main Street right there, crossing from the post office across the train station, and then the 2 that cross across Main Street to get to the cemetery on the other side of the street. Do you think there's any value to, during peak commuting hours in the morning and the evening, having a police presence at that particular spot? Just because, and I spend plenty of time down there, I'm out there walking quite frequently, it is all too common when you see folks that are waiting to either cross either to the other side to catch a bus to the bus shelter on the other side, or coming or going from the post office, or trying to get to the train station. I just think because the pedestrian traffic is so high over there during the peak commuting hours, I think there might be some value to having a police presence to actively enforce the law that you have to yield, come to a complete stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. Do you think that's something we could explore? I know allocation of police resources is always a tricky one, and I know we've been trying to step it up, and there were limited dollars that were made available statewide for increased enforcement. But I would be curious to know if there's any means that we would have available to us to actively target that transit corridor and pedestrian safety.
Well, that intersection is probably one of the worst. And if you couple that with what goes on at the train station, I don't think most of the council commutes. I used to, and it's unbelievably dangerous with the drop-off, the whole situation there. And when I was commuting, the only time there was any order was when occasionally a New Jersey Transit police car would be there, and he'd be standing, and everyone behaved.
Right.
There were no, and then the next day when he's not there, the mayhem continues. So, I mean, what I would like to do is the mayor, the administrator, and I meet with the police chief and the police captain every month to discuss these issues. So I think we could bring it up and see. I mean, you already identified, resourcing and staffing is obviously a problem, but unless we need to explore what can be done there, because it's very, very dangerous.
I mean, like I said, I'm there quite frequently. I'm there often after work with my wife. It's like between 4 o'clock and bedtime, you've got to do something with the kids. So it's you go take a walk, and we're down there, and we sit and we watch, and it pains me. It pains me when I see kids that are, you know, whatever, 15, 16, 17, trying to cross across to get to the bus shelter to catch a bus home, and then we've just got folks whizzing by them.
Yep.
You know, they won't even stop. And you look around, and it's the same thing. Everybody says, oh, where's the police? When you? And I get it, and I know how challenging it is, but even if there was a sting of some sort where we just really drilled down on it, I do believe it would go a long way toward deterring that kind of behavior.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yeah.
I'd like to explore something a little further. I'd like to explore, it's the intersection of two county roads, Woodbridge Avenue and Main Street. How about exploring the county putting a traffic light in there? I go through there every day. I don't like sitting at the traffic lights in town. However, as Council President Muldoon said, there is a lot going on when I go through there, both in the morning, and I usually hit it between 5 and 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, between the bus stop, the commuters, the people crossing the street, occasionally the truck. I mean, that area has so much going on, and I'm usually not a big proponent of traffic lights, but if there's an intersection in my eyes that screams for a traffic light, which would alleviate a lot of the potential issues, or at least give some control to that intersection on a permanent basis, I would suggest we may want to ask the county. I know there's criteria that you have to meet as far as, and I don't know if we would meet it, but I think it's something, I hate to say it, another light downtown. It may also help you, by the way, slow a truck down that's heading downtown to the bridge. But I just think the time has probably come between people making a left turn off of Woodbridge onto Main at 6 o'clock at night, which in my mind, I have no idea why anybody would try that.
It's an impossible.
It is just purely insane, and we have to get some control over it.
Well, we could bring that up with the chief, because we're going to need some type of traffic documentation from our police to go to the county with that.
And maybe it's something that only operates during certain hours, and then
it's a rush hour.
I mean, maybe it's after 7 o'clock at night, it's turned off or blinks or whatever to draw attention. You know, it just seems to me that there's way too much going on there, and we did narrowly avoid a tragedy last week, very narrow. I drove through there right after that happened, and when I saw what was going on, I think I called you, I was horrified. Fortunately, it appears as though everybody is okay, but my heart sunk. So, I mean, I really think that intersection is probably one of the worst I've seen, and there's just way too much going on there.
Okay, well, when we meet with the chief and the captain, we will bring that up and see if we can get figures to try to get the county to look at a light.
Well, I would say, I mean, just to the point with the traffic light, I mean, I've worked for Department of Transportation for a number of years, and you alluded to it. They will be hesitant, obviously, given the light right down the road, other one up at Main Street. There are other measures that can be taken, you know, traffic calming measures that are not auto-centric. Seriously,
I know, but
like say for example,
you'll never calm those drivers.
No, you'd be surprised. I mean, take for example the crosswalk between the post office side continuing down toward the train station. That is a very wide crosswalk. It is a very long path to clear to cross on foot, especially if you're disabled or a senior. And what happens is the folks that are coming down off from, say, Route 1, traveling past the post office, if they're taking a right onto Woodbridge, they're of the mind like, oh, I can nail this turn at 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, because you've got wide berth right there. But if you put neck downs there, where if you tighten that crosswalk, where it's a much shorter path for people to get across the street, you can't take that turn at 25, 30 miles an hour. You're forced to slow down, you know, to 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, and really carefully navigate that turn. And it just slows down the area in general. And then obviously beyond that, with the crosswalks that we have there, you know, additional infrastructure at the crosswalks, you know, raised pavers, the lights. I mean, you guys know the drill. And to that point, and I know we talked about this last fall when we, you know, passed that complete streets policy, I'd be interested to know what's the thinking in terms of the plan. I know it's wonderful that we've seen the signs out there, the Metuchen's a pedestrian safe town. We enforce the law. You know, what are some of the thoughts on the capital side? I know it's the budget season, obviously. I'm sure there are some lines in there. I hope there's some lines in there for dollars for the capital upgrades that we need. Have we taken any of the steps that we had talked about identifying priority capital projects and seeing, where we have monies, where we might need to go to the county for monies, especially at hotspots like that? What is the status
Your
of that
answer
effort?
to that question is yes. We've looked at, and in our budget, in the capital list for the replacement of the two, one on Central, one on Lincoln and Maine, and the additional two, one up by the high school and one on South Brunswick where there's flag crossings.
Great.
We also have our engineer working on an application for safe routes to schools, which is due by May 15th, where we might be able to get money for some of these. If we don't, then we're looking at us providing the money, borrowing or providing the money. Okay?
And you would expect that we'll, as we had talked about back in the fall, that we'll probably break out the full list of capital projects, short-term, long-term, just, because as everyone is aware, I mean, obviously, we will have some monies coming in our direction in connection with development that's going on in town. We're doing outreach with the county, with state parties. I think there is value to having an overall document that speaks to a capital plan, beyond, the ones that are broken out in the budget. Is that something that's in development as well?
I think that, we're working on it. I won't tell you that we have everything, and we've been meeting and working on plans, whether it be with the flags, which we have up now, whether it be the signs, which we have now, whether it be the signs at the high school, which talk about pedestrian safety, whether it's the sign over by the Greenway. We see a number of different things going on. With the monies coming in from the Pearl Street eventually, we are looking at some of the road improvements that would help us in various areas.
So perhaps in light of the efforts that are underway, do you think there would be some kind of public meeting where we could offer, I'm with a local group, Bike Walk Metuchen. I know there are other groups involved in town that are obviously very much invested in capital improvements, like you're talking about. Do you anticipate that there would be a session where we could really speak to setting priorities? We're saying, okay, these are ones where we've really got to target these in the short term versus others that might be more longer term measures, just so that there's a comprehensive plan that everyone is aware of and is collectively signed off on. Versus sometimes you've got to do the piecemeal effort where it's like, okay, we pick and choose where we can do what. But at what point do we say, okay, we've got a circulation plan on the books that ties in with our master plan. We know we've got transportation challenges related to pedestrian bicycling safety. Where is the overall plan that we're going to work on for the next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, one step in that is, and I've talked with the planner about that, is the circulation plan that you mentioned. He believes that some of that needs to be re-looked at because
Absolutely.
It was a certain time, and then depending on some of how the district, that development may change.
Sure.
We may look to shift some of the traffic calming and some of the ideas that were kind of presented in that plan. So I think we need the planner to help us think through all that before, and then to me that would be the first step in looking at that sort of broader plan.
Sure. And I think, and I can't even remember, what was that, 2008 was the circulation plan or something like that? I can't even remember.
2009.
2009.
And there's a lot, much of that is still valid and correct.
Yeah, a
and
lot of
just-
it is valid, and
But look about shifting where some of that stuff takes place.
Right.
I'm trying to think what it said about Maine and Woodbridge as an example, and maybe, maybe things get shifted there.
Yeah, and
investments
Jim,
made.
a good example is up on Main Street where there was a loss of the parking space, and we tightened the crosswalk over there, and it's just a more
Right,
narrow, so you
right.
slow people down. And I've talked with Jim Constantine about the circulation plan. Sometimes signal timing, which I know Jim has advocated for, that is an auto-centric measure where it's just geared
Right.
toward getting cars through.
That's
And,
true. He did make
so
that
if
point
we're-
that-
If we're looking at our master plan, if we're looking about what kind of community we want to be as a downtown, do we want to accommodate the through traffic from Edison and elsewhere?
No,
or do
you're
we
right.
say,
That was-
let's focus on our
I'm glad you said that,
citizens?
because that was a key point that he made, was that
I'm going to get Jim to see the light eventually.
many of the things in there were sort of
Get there.
car centric, and
Right.
it's all pre-complete
Okay.
streets. So, yeah, so those, obviously, there's
Yeah, sure, and I
Lots
would just
to
say,
be done,
it's
and-
great to hear that this stuff is ongoing. Everyone is thrilled about what we've seen out there with the flags, but as far as the Capitol side, it really would be wonderful to have an opportunity to weigh in on some of this stuff, because I know, just from the few meetings I've been at, I know folks have, little projects that they know might be a good idea, others would think others are a good idea, but it's always great when you get the whole community to weigh in on something, say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, and we're going to do our best to knock these things off as best we can over the next stretch. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting.
Mayor, I move that communication consent agenda items A, B, and C be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're at that point where we have reports from the council members. Council President?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess Sean kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but I just wanted to make people aware, hopefully the people are aware of the progress that we've made to date in pedestrian safety improvement. In the past couple of weeks, we've added 3 more flag crosswalk locations for a total of 5, and at all locations we now have new flag holders with signs that advise people on how to safely use the flags to cross the street. And we've also placed new signs that what we call the gateway entrances into Metuchen that sort of announce that Metuchen is pedestrian-friendly and warn drivers to obey traffic laws. And then the police department has moved that variable message board again, which has been part of the plan. It's now just south of the post office, and I'm thinking maybe it was done in light of what that did happen at the Main and Woodbridge. But it's flashes slow down and yield to pedestrians. So again, these are the short-term solutions, but we are making progress. Things are happening, and I want to thank and recognize Bill Borth, Fred Hall, and the Public Works Department and the police for getting these things installed. As soon as the weather broke and the ground defrosted, they were out there installing the signs. And actually, the Traffic and Transportation Committee was where some of these ideas came from. So the process is working. We all know there's so much more to be done, but I believe that this issue has been recognized by all the departments, all the officials, and everyone is really focused on working to achieve this. So I think that's a big accomplishment, and we're in for the long haul, but we will make our streets safer.
Jay?
Yes.
Can I just ask a question? Can we get any kind of report of either how many traffic stops are made,
Yes.
giving warnings to drivers that are breaking the law, or if they are given, tickets? I'd like to know.
Yes.
Because I have found personally, still going around town, that despite, say, crossing by Center Street, I waited the other day, and I pressed the button. I thought the lights weren't working,
Right.
because no one even slowed down.
I know.
It wasn't
It's
even a
just-
thought.
Right.
But I had to wait. And this
But-
was going both ways, 45 minutes apart when I went into town and came back. It's unbelievable.
So yes, the police, I think I reported on that a couple months ago. They established a new tracking category in their system, it's specifically on pedestrian safety, warnings, violations, tickets, all that. And so we can get that report from the police chief.
And can we have it for like next meeting?
Yeah, I think I'm sure we'll have our meeting with them prior to our next meeting. So, and then they are going to be doing. We'll get an update on that as to when that's going to happen. The sort of decoy, I'm sure they're going to go there. So have that decoy be what you were trying to do, and then they'll take it.
There is a program which the freeholders are helping to fund. We received, I think, $8,000 for additional funding over the $4,000 we had last year. $4,000 over what we had last year, which is a program for the Route 27 corridor. We met with Freeholder Polis on safety. They're training officers from each of the towns. It'll go from New Brunswick through Highland Park, Metuchen, and Edison. And it's going to start on a Saturday, I'm not sure the date, and then it will be up to the individual towns to which day they pick to use this sting operation for pedestrian safety. But what they're in the process of now is getting officers trained so that they have all of the training necessary for doing the operation.
I just have one more question. Is it possible if we have a state road or a county road that we could get some additional maybe officers from a county program, maybe if they're not using them in the parks for some reason, if they could maybe get some of them out for traffic on the county roads?
Doesn't have a police department any longer.
No.
The sheriff's office just really does the courts and the jail. They don't have a group that's on the roads. And the parks uses security, and then the local police patrol the parks.
That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Wallace?
Thank you, Your Honor. I really don't have a lot to say. The Recreation Commission meets tomorrow night, but I do want to tell you that the Easter egg hunt is this Saturday coming up down in Myrtle Field. I believe it's 9 a.m. It starts. If you've never been there, you have any young kids or grandchildren visiting right now because of the long week holiday, bring them down there. It's a lot of fun, and there's big chocolate rabbits for, which I know you just love to have around your house for prizes. The Traffic and Transportation meets Wednesday night, but to mention on that, I hope everybody's taken note of the 3 new crosswalks and these nice little boxes now that the flags are in rather than them big yellow buckets. They really look nice. The signs are up. It touches a pedestrian-friendly community, and please enforce all the traffic ordinances or laws. I think they look nice.
The flags are much more visible, too, as you approach.
Yes, they are.
It kind of draws your attention to what's there.
Yeah, I
as
noticed
we were
that, too.
hoping to get.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm going to impose on you, Mayor, to contact the county as soon as possible. As you all know, I walk the Greenway 3-4 times a week. And the other day, I walked down toward the Lake Avenue Bridge to see how the construction was going on. And as soon as you walk under the a footbridge over Graham Avenue, stop when you get on the construction side and look up. The hill is ready to come down, and there's all kinds of trees out there with just a few roots dangling. And if it comes down, the footbridge is going to come down at the end of the funeral home parking lot, and the end of Graham Avenue is all going to end up down on the Greenway. So I think you should contact the county tomorrow and have them down there looking at that.
Bill, can you contact them? That might be the construction people.
No, it's nowhere near the construction.
Oh, it's not?
Nope, nowhere near construction. It's down at the footbridge over Graham Avenue.
Okay.
Is that erosion that you're suggesting, or?
I would call it erosion, yes. It's probably the water runs down Graham Avenue and it goes down there, and that's what's washed it out. But it's very bad. I mean, when you look down from the bottom, you're looking about 15 or 20 feet underneath the trees. And the washout is 10, 15 feet high. And like I said, when it hits that point where it lets go, you're going to bring the end of the footbridge down, you're going to bring the end of the parking lot for the funeral home down, and probably the end of Graham Avenue, plus about 10 trees. And there's been enough publicity on that particular items happening countrywide, and we don't need to join that list.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay, Councilwoman
We'll go on the
Rasmussen?
rest.
Okay. The Shade Tree Commission is applying for a Green Communities grant to hire a consultant to assist in updating our community forestry plan. And Arbor Day will be April 25th at the Old Franklin Schoolhouse. We'll be planting a couple of the trees that we'll be getting for the Sandy storm relief. And that'll probably be about 2:30, 3 o'clock. What time, Tyrene?
Anytime that works for the borough is good.
Okay, well, we'll put it up on the website. And I want to remind everyone that the 500 trees are coming and will be distributed at the Senior Center April 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if we run out of trees, of course, they'll be gone before 2 p.m. And also the Shade Tree Commission, Environmental Commission will be on hand, and I will be reaching out to the Garden Club for assistance in distributing the trees. If we have any trees that are remaining, some will go to the schools and be planted in some of the areas to help in the future to decrease the heat load on the buildings. And also there's advertising in the Criterion, and Metuchen Matters will also be putting something up. PSE&G will be trimming tree limbs away from transmission wires on Bridge Street, New Durham Avenue, and Middlesex Avenue and across the Greenway starting Friday this week, or if not, Monday of next week. Davy Tree will be the contractors doing the work, and I think when Bill does his report, he can get into more specifics of the exact path. The Development Commission is still gathering information for the business inventory. It's a slow process, but it will help us in our quest to improve the downtown. And we have also discussed upcoming downtown projects and positive effect it will have on our downtown. The Environmental Commission applied for an ANJAC, which is Association of New Jersey Environmental Commission grant, to fund a rain garden at Edgar School. There's an erosion problem there that is caused by water runoff, and that rain garden will help alleviate that problem. And also, please remember to recycle. When we recycle, we save money 3 ways: less tonnage cost, increased recycling revenue, increased grant money from the county for our recycling efforts. And the Chamber of Commerce will be meeting tomorrow, and I will be attending that meeting. But upcoming events are April 26th will be the annual spring townwide garage sale, and it's a $10 sign up, and you can go on the website to download the form to fill out. And also, if you are a chamber member, including any family memberships, it is free for you. May 5th is the annual golf outing, and it's their 22nd year, so you can also go on the website to get information about that. And the first cruise night will be May 7th. And please consider a chamber family membership. It will help support our member businesses, and you can get $20 back as a gift certificate from your $75 membership fee. And also, please try again to support our businesses, support our local theater on Main Street. Information regarding films and shows are available on their website. And consider having dinner and a movie date night, and stay local. That's the end of my report.
Okay.
Councilwoman, could you tell me the garage sale date again, please?
Yes, that's April 26th.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Insero?
Thank you, Mayor. The Board of Health is slated to meet April 23rd at 7:30 p.m., and as I already mentioned, they are interested in looking at some smoking ordinances for Metuchen, and I'll bring up what was brought up tonight. The Senior Citizens Commission meets this Friday at noon, and the Metuchen Youth Services Board meets this Thursday, the 10th. We're pleased to announce that a borough employee, Jody Kopak, whose appointment is on our agenda for later this evening, who works in the finance office under our CFO, will be taking on the additional responsibility of administering the county grant that we receive regarding drug abuse prevention funds. And related to that, there is a movie show Friday, April 25th at Campbell School at 7 p.m. to raise funds for the Alliance. So all families are invited to attend. Doors open at 7 p.m. And the show, the show is at 7 p.m. and doors open at 6:30. Tickets are $10 for each adult with a free child with each paid admission, and each additional child is $3. And all funds go to the Alliance, and the show should be over by 8 p.m. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Graysell?
Thank you, Mayor. The Cable Technology Advisory Committee met. We had our first negotiating session with the cable company regarding the renewal of their franchise. We had a series of discussions about needs, technology needs for the town, and the relationship between the cable company and the citizens. The Arts Council met. The Arts Council is in the midst of planning a very busy spring, summer, fall cultural events, including the Gallery Walk, the Summer Concert Series, the Garden Tour, the Jazz Fest, the Summer Movie, and a trip to the Art Museum, as well as a continuing round of Rotunda Gallery shows. That completes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Cameron?
Thank you, Your Honor. The pool commission met this evening. Their meeting was moved up because of the upcoming spring break. A couple issues on the agenda. Tonight we have the approval of the maintenance contract for the pool for the upcoming season. That's helpful. Improvements looking forward, looks like they're just going to be able to do the improvements to the bathroom floors and the breezeway floor for this year. We're hoping to have that done. And they're just going to be redoing the flooring, hopefully improving the quality of what's called pebble flex on the floor there. Additionally, they will have a vegetable garden at the pool this summer, working with a group of Girl Scouts. It's going to be used as an educational tool to teach some younger kids as part of their programming and work with the Girl Scouts about vegetables and the importance of it. The library board meets tomorrow evening. It's a busy time of year for the library. And just numerous programs going on. There's a special collection set up for National Poetry Month at the library, which is during the month of April. There's workshops for job seekers every Wednesday from 1 to 2 in conjunction with the County Workforce Investment Board in their one-stop center. Every week is a different issue, and the first week, which took place, but April 9th, they have what employers expect, what job areas, or April 16th is what job areas are in demand. April 23rd is resumes and the latest trends in resumes. And April 30th will be an effective job search technique program. These are open to the public. They should call ahead to register to make sure there's room. But it's really designed to help folks who are looking for a job who are maybe having problems. Additionally, there's a number of programs going on for children, Story Soup Kids Club, and I believe they're still reading to Tavis the therapy dog, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, that's right.
So that will continue. That is, by the way, probably one of the most popular programs. So hats off to you for allowing us to do that. The only other thing I have is for those of us who are Yankee fans that got to watch opening day today, a little shout out to a Metuchen resident who was part of the West Point 72 or so West Point cadets. And Bill, I apologize, he's a third-year cadet. I guess you call him cadets. I'll defer to you if I'm wrong. Ryan McCadden was out on the field unfurling the flag. Prior to it, of course, Ryan's mother's a teacher at Edgar School, and his father's a longtime coach. And his brother Connor threw out the first pitch at the Little League opening day on Saturday. So they seem to have a real connection to opening day events. But it's kind of neat to put a little local touch on an opening day ceremony at Yankee Stadium. So that's all I have.
Okay. Dennis, do you have a report?
I have no report unless you would like me at this point in time just to explain Resolution 2014-71.
That would be good.
Okay. What you have before you is the resolution. It's entitled Resolution Approving Liquor License Transfer, Sping, Inc. It's trading as NJ's Tavern to AJ Liquors, LLC. What has happened is AJ Liquors has filed an application to transfer the license. Along with the transfer of the license, they have to meet certain requirements. They have to provide certain information. They have compiled all that information and submitted all that information. There has been an advertisement in the newspaper relating to the proposed application that's before you. It's my understanding from Katie that we have not received any objections to the transfer of their liquor license. Historically, just going back, actually, I can't even say a few months, I think it's a few years, there was an order suspending the liquor license belonging to Sping, Inc., trading as NJ's Tavern. And there has been several consent orders entered by the Director of the Alcoholic Beverage Controls relating to the transfer. The most recent was the fourth amended consent order, and what that permitted you to do was to entertain the application to renew the liquor license. Because as some of you may recall, the liquor license was suspended and they filed an application to renew. However, the consent order that was issued by the director had a provision in it that said if the license was not transferred by June 3rd to a bona fide third party by June 30th, 2013, that the license would be then considered, essentially to cease to exist. So at that point in time, the borough took the position with the alcoholic beverage control that we took no position relating to the disciplinary action. However, we sought to preserve the license within the town, because liquor licenses, you only are permitted a certain amount of liquor license based upon your population. So that was the position we took. And the director entered the fourth amended order, which essentially gave a drop dead date of June 30th, 2014 to Sping Inc. to transfer the liquor license, otherwise it would cease to exist. Thereafter, they applied to renew the liquor license, which you had granted a resolution authorizing the renewal of the liquor license. However, during this entire period of time, the license still has been suspended indefinitely pursuant to the director's order. They have provided the information. The police department has done the investigation, and what you have before you is the resolution authorizing the transfer from Sping Inc. to AJ Liquors. AJ Liquors does not have a site for the license at this point in time, so it would be considered a pocket license. What that means is prior to that license becoming active again, there would be yet another application that would be submitted before you that would have to be approved, and that would be a place-to-place application. As for the suspension, the license pursuant to the fourth amended consent order, the license remains suspended indefinitely until the director is satisfied that the license is being transferred to a bona fide third party. So what would happen next is if this resolution is passed, the resolution along with the packet will be forwarded to the alcoholic beverage control. The last thing, I'll entertain any questions anyone has. The effective date of this resolution is April 22nd, 2014. The reason behind that date is we were provided with the proposed closing date for the sale of the liquor license, and that's 10 to 14 days after you act, or if you decide to act on this resolution. After you pass a resolution authorizing the transfer, you can't undo it. The transfer happens. So what the ABC recommends is that you ask for a closing date and you set the effective date after the period of time, and it still would give you, if the closing wasn't to happen in the 10 to 14 days, it gives you a meeting on the 21st that you could rescind this transfer if the deal went sour. So, if anyone else has any other questions.
So really, when you say a pocket license, that means it really isn't going to serve any useful function until it's tied to an application to some sort of premises use, at which point we'll have an opportunity to pass on that and set conditions.
Correct, yes. They couldn't, the AJ Liquors tomorrow couldn't just, lease a store out and hang this license and start, serving alcohol. They would have to come before, you with the, well, actually, I take that back. They could, they're not permitted by law to do it.
Is there a time limit on how long they can keep that in pocket?
Yes, I believe, now, this is just off the top of my head, I believe it's 2 years.
Any other questions from the council? Very thorough. Any other questions? No. Okay. Bill, do you have any report?
No report.
Okay, I have just a couple items. I met with Ken Smith's class at Edgar, and the class presented an issue about a stop sign on Rector and 27, which was being blocked by a tree. The options were to take the tree down, which was a healthy tree, so that was not really an option. And they came up with a couple options. One is a stop ahead sign, and also they put another stop sign on the opposite side of the street so people could see it as they come down. He is aware, and his class is aware, that the DPW and the police have worked to get this done, and it was completed last week. Regarding the fire report, Metuchen responded to 27 alarms. Last month, we had 161 hours of alarms or emergencies, 75 hours at drills. Cadets and advisors volunteered 100 hours. And yes, our fire department was at the mutual aid situation at the school in Edison. Our hook and ladder was there. And also, we had a crew going to one of the Edison houses, which had to react to another fire at Edison at the time that they were covering the Edison house. Don't forget that this Saturday is the shred date at Edgar School from 9 to noon. Once the truck is filled, they will finish. So if you get there early, what has been the case in the last number of times is they fill up pretty quick. And that concludes my report.
Since we got an explanation from the Borough Attorney on that Resolution 2014-71, I'm going to include that in my move.
Okay.
So I move new business consent agenda items A through J be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Were there any objections? No. Okay.
I move bill resolution in the amount of $3,220,081.36 be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have two appointments. One is for Jacob Schulman to be on the Youth Services Municipal Alliance Committee, and the other is that Jody Kopek will become the Director of the Municipal Alliance.
You need council consent, Mayor.
Okay.
So I move we accept the appointments of Jacob Schulman to the Youth Service Board and Jody Kopak, Director of Youth Service Board Municipal Alliance.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think Jacob is here tonight, right? So
Yes, Jacob's here.
congratulations, welcome.
See you Thursday.
All right, good. So let's see, ordinance now. All right, so we're, do the first one. I motion that ordinance number 2014-2 be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 2014-2, an ordinance to authorize acceptance of deed from District at Metuchen LLC.
I move that the ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and public hearing set down for...
April 21st.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerino.
Yes.
Councilman Grayzel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Yes.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Council President Muldoon.
Yes. I motion that ordinance number 2014-4 be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 2014-4, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
I motion that ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and public hearing set down for.
April 21st.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano?
Yes.
Councilman Grayzel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilman Wallace?
Yes.
Council President Muldoon?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to open it to the public for any questions or comments. Hearing none, close that section of the meeting.
I move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.